Her cries were fierce, but her mothers were absent. Ugochi had lost too much blood. She would live, but only in fragments. Her smile was never quite whole again. Her father, Obuefi, a palm tapper, looked into Anuli's eyes, dark pools that glinted like wet coal, and whispered, "You will not die in poverty like me." Anuli grew up in a compound made of dried mud bricks and thatched roofing. The wind often slipped through the spaces between the raffia reeds, and during the harmattan, her tiny body shivered in silence beside the warm clay stove. She was a curious child. While other girls molded clay into market pots, Anuli asked questions. Why do we live in mud while the chief's daughter lives in cement? Why does Mama wear one wrapper while the women from across the river wear 5? Why do people with gold talk while others listen? Her mother would hush her. You must learn to be content, Anuli. The gods don't bless greedy children. But even at 5, Anuli didn't think it was greed. It was hunger, not for food, but for more. Anuli's first brush with wealth came when she was 7. A caravan of traders from the north passed through Umuagu. In the red-hearted village of Umuagu, nestled between the snaking Azu River and the whispering Mbala Hills, a child was born under a moon of fire and storm. Her name was Anuli, meaning joy, though her birth came with as much sorrow as celebration. Her mother, Ugochi, bore her in silence after 3 days of labor, the midwife cutting through the amniotic shroud as lightning cracked the heavens. Her cries were fierce, but her mothers were absent. Ugochi had lost too much blood. She would live, but only in fragments. Her smile was never quite whole again. Her father, Obuefi, a palm tapper, looked into Anuli's eyes, dark pools that glinted like wet coal, and whispered, "You will not die in poverty like me." Anuli grew up in a compound made of dried mud bricks and thatched roofing. The wind often slipped through the spaces between the raffia reeds, and during the harmattan, her tiny body shivered in silence beside the warm clay stove. She was a curious child. While other girls molded clay into market pots, Anuli asked questions. Why do we live in mud while the chief's daughter lives in cement? Why does Mama wear one wrapper while the women from across the river wear 5? Why do people with gold talk while others listen? Her mother would hush her. You must learn to be content, Anuli. The gods don't bless greedy children. But even at 5, Anuli didn't think it was greed. It was hunger, not for food, but for more. Anuli's first brush with wealth came when she was 7. A caravan of traders from the north passed through Umuagu. Among them was a woman named Maria. She wore layers of indigo silk and spoke with the confidence of someone who owned her fate. She bought from Ugochi a bundle of smoked fish, and handed her a gold coin instead of cowries. Anuli watched that coin glint in her mother's hand. Why did she give us so much? She asked. Because some people have too much, Ugochi replied. Anuli thought, then why not me? From that day, she began collecting. Not toys or beads, but dreams. She would lie under the mango tree and imagine herself with coral beads around her neck, servants fanning her with raffia leaves, and people bowing in her presence. When she was 10, she began hawking groundnuts after school. Not because she was asked, but because she wanted to save. She tied her earnings in a rag and buried them behind the yam barn. She dreamed of buying land. Her father laughed when he found out. A child buying land. Anuli looked at him and said, why not? It was the first time Obuefi saw his daughter not as a child, but as a storm yet to come. By the time Anuli turned 13, she had become the village enigma. She was still poor, yet she carried herself like someone who had tasted wealth in her sleep. Girls her age gossiped about boys and moon dances. Anuli read old scrolls the priest left behind. One day, she found an aged woman outside the forest boundary. The villagers said the woman was mad. Anuli didn't care. The woman looked into her eyes and said, you were born under the storm moon. Storm children do not ask permission. They take. Take what? Anuli asked. Whatever they want. But there is always a price. Anuli laughed, not yet knowing that every story told by a mad woman was once a prophecy ignored. At 16, Anuli stood among other girls during the festival of Ola, the earth mother and goddess of fertility. They wore white wrappers and chalked their faces in sacred symbols. They danced, prayed, and made offerings to ensure fertile lands and fruitful wombs. But Anuli whispered a different prayer, Allah, I don't want to wait. Give me wealth. Make me great. I will give anything. That night, while others dreamed of husbands, Anuli dreamt of fire. Of a man cloaked in indigo, standing by a tree of bones. He held out his hand and said, Do you still want what you asked for? She awoke trembling. On the 7th market day after the festival, a stranger arrived. He was tall, robed in indigo silk that shimmered like wet oil, and his eyes were mirrors, reflecting not what was, but what could be. He called himself Ezendu. No one knew his kin or purpose, but he went straight to Anuli's store, where she sold yam fritters. I smelled destiny, he said. It brought me here. She stared, wide-eyed. I have what you asked for. But it will cost you. She swallowed hard. What do you want? Ezendu touched her womb. This. She backed away. Not now, he said. One day. When you will beg for what you gave away. He handed her a scroll and vanished before the village drums announced his departure. Anuli opened the scroll. It was a map, not of a place, but of decisions. Instructions. Rituals. Promises. She followed them. And slowly, her fortune turned. Traders favored her. Markets welcomed her. Men offered their strength and women their envy. Within 5 years, she owned land, cattle, and the largest market stall in all of Umuagu. But her beauty faded too slowly. By 22, she had received 32 marriage proposals. She refused them all. Love was a luxury for the poor. She had bought something greater. At 25, Anuli felt a strange emptiness in her belly. Her womb ached not from cramps, but from something missing. She saw the priest. He examined her, nodded slowly, and said, The spirit of fertility has abandoned you. Anuli smiled sadly. I know. Ezendu returned that night. You knew the price, he said. I did, she replied. But do you accept it? She hesitated. I thought I would be happy. You are powerful. But happiness is not part of the deal. Tears welled in her eyes. Can I take it back? Ezendu turned. Even the gods do not undo what was freely given. Anuli built schools. Fed widows. Raised orphans. But never bore children of her own. She adopted a girl named Ifunanya. Trained her. Clothed her in coral beads. Taught her everything except how to barter with spirits. When Anuli grew old, her name became legend. Young girls whispered about the woman who sold her womb for riches. Some envied her. Some feared her. But all remembered her. On her dying day, she whispered to Ifunanya, Tell them I chose. Let them choose wisely. And with that, the storm child passed into the wind. Moral lesson. Every gift has a price. Every choice has a shadow. Choose with both eyes open, and never bargain with what you cannot live without. Thanks for watching. Kindly like, comment and turn on the notification bell to get more interesting stories like this, and don't forget to subscribe.